Another
Hey,
week.
oh, we have recording in progress.
Recording in progress.
Continue.
We're live. Go. Red team go. Blue team go. What's going on, man?
Really good. Actually, looking at some investment stuff that would give us some more opportunities at leverage. So.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's a great word to kind of leap off of today and talk a little bit around that. Leverage, what to leverage, why to leverage, who to leverage. I think maybe dive into a little bit of that conversation and see where we go. But anything else you want to tell us maybe on looking at those investment properties?
Actually, I just found a term that I'm really going to dig into called rental arbitrage. So we have an established business, right? We've been in business for 10 years as agents and 4 years with Nomis, and we have a proven track record and a bank account and credit, all those types of things. So if someone were looking at us as a business, they would say, yeah, I can trust these guys. So, I've been digging into Airbnb, been digging into our current investment properties we have and how they've been operating, and just still feel like there's something out there that can give us some more opportunity and leverage. And rental arbitrage is something that I never knew about. And this is where, and I think we've heard Peggy talk about this before, about corporate leases. So a company will tell a owner of a home, we will rent your property for the year, for 2 years, whatever the terms are. And it's guaranteed income for you, don't have to worry about it. And we're going to rent your property out to a tenant. That is in essence what rental arbitrage is. But what I am finding is that if you find a rental property around hospitals, big businesses, things like that, where people are coming and going, and they necessarily don't want to be there for a full year, but they need to be there for 30 days, 3 months, 6 months, something of the sort, you can lease it out to them individually without owning the property because you have a corporate lease in place. So another way to leverage our business and what we've established without having to put in 25% down or whatever to make it our own investment property, we can leverage that to make rental income. So I was like, aha, I think that's a good one.
That was something I was just talking to my class about, not rental arbitrage there, but just the ability to have so many different options and tools on your tool belt with real estate. And I think it's why, somewhere around 80 or 90% of millionaires, have gotten that way via real estate, right? And I think there's just so many vehicles that, you start to dive into this thing and you realize, wow, I can do this, wow, I can do that. And I just posted something this morning just about the power of compounding, right? And how Albert Einstein said, the eighth wonder of the world is the power of compounding, right? Compound interest, right? And that's kind of what you're looking at is, as you educate yourself over time, real estate's so vast and so deep, that it's going to take a little bit of time to figure out some of these things. So, pick a niche, start to master that, and then you'll start to realize, okay, here's a spin-off of that. Here's another vertical business I could get into. Here's another, opportunity that I could take advantage of that is just a natural fit with what I'm doing there. And it works for the small individual, self-employed or sales guy who just wants to crush it from sales to the large company of people who want to run, an organization with hundreds and hundreds of people in it. I mean, real estate has got something for everybody in there. So really,
and it really proves how you can leverage yourself. You don't have to have a bunch of money for that example that I gave. You can leverage yourself and your reputation as far as your track record or anything else you've done. And it necessarily doesn't have to be in real estate either. If you learn how to speak confidently, you can leverage your confidence even to deliver an opportunity for someone else that would give them peace of mind and not having to deal with a tenant. You don't deal with a tenant, you can deal with me.
Mm-hmm.
I own a business. I'm doing this full time, whatever. So I really like the opportunity. I'm going to dig into that some more. I think that's a good one.
So here's a question for you, Ryan, right? So we're talking around leverage. Why leverage?
Leverage gives you all kinds of other opportunities. I mean, the opportunities are endless when you look at using other people's skills that you necessarily don't have, or that it would take you too much time that you lose an opportunity to do something else you could be spending your time on. So leverage is just one of the key components to be able to do more, get more in return, both in money and time.
Yeah, I think leverage, a big one is, getting your time back. How many times, you find yourself doing, small knick-knack, things that maybe aren't the best use of your time there, but maybe things that need to get done or have to get done or should be done, but maybe they're not quite on the larger scale that's really going to move the needle there. So time was the biggest one. I like that you mentioned missed opportunity. That is a big one there, because you're so wrapped up in this one lane that you're missing everything else,
Yeah.
that's going by you, and so if you can kind of get your head out of the weeds a little bit, with all of the things that go on with whatever industry you're in, right, your particular role, being able to leverage allows you to maybe get your head up to look a little bit higher and see what else is out there. So I love that in terms of missed opportunity and time for leverage there. I think another big one, why leverage, just to have, options, right, to get your life back. I think when you
Yeah.
leverage, you then have the ability to kind of make choices and realize, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to go, and this is something that I'm not interested in doing. Why? Because it's an energy suck.
And it
Right?
falls into life as a whole. I mean, this isn't just about business. Leveraging your time in your personal life can give you so much opportunity as well. I mean, people get so weeded with just what they have to deal with at home that they oftentimes, the day goes by and like, where did it go? And you could have had someone else help you with that, just by someone that actually is a pro at it, whether it's cleaning your house or cooking your meals or all those things. And people are like, I can't afford that. It's not necessarily true if you just dig into how you leverage things.
Well, I think you have to think about, like, okay, well, what can I leverage? Right. And the short answer.
Good question. Where do you start with that? Actually, that's
Yeah,
a good one, right?
Yeah,
Where
totally. And I got you. Right. So the first question is, what can you leverage? Right. And the short answer is anything, right? Pretty much anything that you can think of.
How do you decide? I think you decide.
And there you go. So that's
what do I not want to do?
Totally. So knowing what that you can leverage for anything, how do you then decide what to do, right? And so I think one of the first things I think you find what you said, right, or both sides of the coin of what you said. First off, what gives you a lot of energy? What do you like to do, right? And those are the things there you could maybe put in and say, okay, I'm going to handle these things. Secondly, right, the other side of that coin is, what do you hate doing? Immediately get that off of your plate. Things that you hate doing are nothing but energy suck right from you, and it takes energy, and it makes everything else that much more difficult.
And it's also about your skills. You have to recognize what your skills are and how they can benefit you most, because I know as a tenured agent now, my sales skills are what benefit me the most. So even though I really like the relationship building and the conversations and all those types of things, I really don't mind the paperwork, but I don't mind the driving around either, to be honest. I love cruising through the country sometimes. However, that's not making me money, and that's not giving me freedom back in my life eventually. And I also know that some of our staff, though, they would never want to have the conversations that I have to have with people sometimes. So like, please give me all that other stuff. So as a business owner, even as a person, just recognizing, even though I like doing that or that I can do it, is it really benefiting the long run of where I'm trying to go? And if it isn't, those are the things I need to let go of first, so I can go do what I'm best at that's going to bring the best return. And that's where people get stuck all the time too. They sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to keep doing this or doing that. And it's like, well, yeah, you might like that, but is that generating money? Is that generating business and giving you freedom? And a lot of times the answer is no. So.
Yeah, it's good. I think, again, what do you leverage? So I wrote down, something that someone is better than you at, right? So, you may be, you may be good at working Canva or InShot or putting some posters on, but are you really the best marketer out there? Is that really the best use of your time, right? So it's like, who is someone that's better at doing those things there? Secondly, I would leverage something then that only you can do, right? What is something that you can do that maybe no one else can? Right? Maybe it's a particular skill set. Maybe it's because of, your position in your company and who you are. But that would be the second thing then I'd be looking at, saying, okay, this is something I can't leverage, so this would have to go onto my plate. And then finally, I also filter through what are the highest making dollar producing hour activities, right, that I could do. So I think about some of those things. It's like, well, is data entry maybe, the best use of my time? No, it's important. Right. But there are other people that maybe are better set up and better leveraged and, can type faster, and can read all the data and not have to look at the keyboard like I do when I type. And they're just better fit for that. Right.
Yeah.
And there are other things that I can do that they can't. Right. In terms of our company and my role and where we're going, that it's like, well, okay, I have to do that. I can't leverage that out. And so that's how I filter, trying to figure out what should I do. I'm kind of thinking through those things there. What gives me energy? What are things that only I can do? What are the best uses of my time in terms of the highest making dollar, per hour activities, right? And that's where I'm starting that list. And then it's what you said. I'm also thinking, what don't I want to do? Get that off my plate.
And what you're saying has come from experience at this point, because there was a point in time where I can speak for both of us in saying this, that we were a little scared of leverage. Like I'm gonna let go of this, and what's going to happen, and how will that go? And so that's a fear I think a lot of people need to address internally and talk it out with either another team member or a coach. Feel free to give us a call. We're happy to kind of talk you through that, because we have been there and done that with leverage, and letting go of things to let someone else do it, and breaking and fixing. There were a lot of times where you just had to experience it and get through it, but it's always turned out to be on the right side of things. And our company has grown because we've been open to leverage and not be too down in the weeds about it, that you're just going to have to do it. And you can plan, and there are definitely ways to get a firm plan in order, but you're still just going to have to do it, So
yeah, I think it comes from a point of, it's your baby, right? You birthed this business, you've created this business out of nothing, right? It was just you.
You birthed the business
from the ground up, right? Out of the ground like a watermelon. You've grown this thing, right?
Yeah.
And so,
so much fun. I love the analogies we come up with.
It's hard to give it up, right? You don't want to just turn that over to somebody else. You spend a lot of time cultivating these clients, right? Making a great experience, making sure that you're giving amazing advice and always doing the right thing. And then, here comes another agent onto your team, and they're like, hey, I'll help you with that. And you're like, so it's very difficult, right? To give up those relationships and all that time that you put in. But you have to realize at some point, one is too small of a number to achieve any type of greatness. They say if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with a team of people, right? And it starts to realize that there's only so much that you can control, right? And you've got to let go of those things and realize there are people that are better fit, or people that will do equally as good of a job, or people that will do equally good a job, but they do it a different way, right? And so just suck it up, buttercup, and have a little bit of flexibility within what you're doing, and realize not everyone has to do it the exact same way, but make sure that you're in alignment in terms of that service, right? And to the client, to the consumer, and making sure that you're delivering on a high end and always doing the right thing. As long as you're in alignment there, then let them do whatever they need to do to service that client in that
For
manner.
sure. And here's a good question that Shelby asked. As a new agent, what is the first thing you leveraged out? So go ahead, you can answer this. What was the first thing you leveraged out? I think my answer is going to be the same as yours.
The first thing I leveraged out was administrative help.
Like what? Right? Yeah.
Yeah, bringing someone on to help with, the 100 million things that go into helping a buyer buy and a seller sell, right? Basically the contract to close piece, right? You can find someone in there to really help with a lot of the stuff in terms of communication with not only the lender, but title companies, the other agent, right? There's a lot of things that you can just immediately get off your plate. And I'm not even saying bring it in-house, right? I'm not telling you to go out and hire someone for $30,000, $40,000 right now. I'm telling you there are some great companies out there that will absolutely be able to service your
even ours at this point, right? Someone could call us and we could actually handle contract to close for their business if they had 15 or 20 deals easily on a regular basis.
Sure. Yeah. I think there's just lots of areas to leverage out there, right? So if I were a new agent and I wanted to start to get stuff off, that would be the first thing I would leverage off, is contract to close and all of the paperwork and HOA document findings, all that stuff there to go leverage off my plate. But the question is, right, when does leverage become bad, Ryan? When is it bad to leverage?
When you don't have enough business coming in to support the leverage you brought on.
Yeah, or when you're not going to go do anything with that time.
Yeah, no,
right?
totally. Yeah.
So don't go leverage and then not go get more business. You're just giving money away. You might as well have just serviced the business and kept the money in house.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Yeah. The idea of getting leverage is so you can go do more. The idea of getting leverage is not so you can just go do nothing. There's points in time when you sell businesses or the business has grown to a tremendous level where you can move on to another business or another passion, and that business is set up enough to support itself. But as far as leverage and when it begins, no, it's to grow. It's not to do nothing.
I'm going to have to leverage some better communication. I've had, I think, 3 phone calls from teammates during our mastermind. It's almost like they didn't know we were doing this every single week.
Well, the good thing is they're out there closing business, and that's kind of why they're not around, I believe. I know that I just heard about 50 things.
But honestly, though, there's a great point, though, Ryan. Why can we be here right now at 11 o'clock?
Well, and what is it doing for everyone else?
Because those guys are out there handling that and leveraging, right? We're leveraging them, right? And they're doing an amazing job with our clients. They're doing an amazing job with our other agents, our administrative staff, both with clients and with supporting our agent staff. and that's, we're grateful for them. And it took time to cultivate them and find the right people and go through a hiring process and make sure that there was alignment there. But we knew that in order to go up, right, we had to leverage, right? Sometimes you have to give up to go up, giving up money, giving up, some time, maybe initially. You have to give up control, right? I can't control every single thing. There's just not enough hours in the day, right? And so in order to go up, you got to give up a few things there.
And so what are some of the things that we had to go through from a leadership perspective when you're bringing on leverage as well? Because obviously a lot of people will say, great, I'm closing 25 deals a year and I need administrative help like yesterday. I'm going to go hire someone. And so they say, oh yeah, my next door neighbor, and this is exactly what I did, is a very highly organized person. And I brought her on to, help me with tasks and things like that. She did a great job for a period of time until, it started to get bigger and bigger, and that just wasn't the right fit anymore. And it really worked out well for everybody. But I mean, up front, did I really do my due diligence in digging into that person's qualifications to help me from an administrative perspective? The answer was no. I went with my gut and my relationship, which works a lot of times. But for someone that's thinking about leverage and hiring, and that's really what it is. Leverage, we're talking about adding to your team. You're adding someone into your world to help you in your business. When you're thinking about doing that, what are some of the tools that we now use to get that right person in place so it isn't a high turnover and it isn't frustrating for me now that I leverage, but man, I just picked up 50 more pounds of work because this person's asking me 18 questions every minute of the day, and that's not what I wanted. That happens a lot.
Yeah, there's a ton that you can leverage in there. There's a ton to unpack even in what you just said, with all of that there. The first thing I'd start with is telling people, okay, so where do you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years, right? Let's talk about that. Right? Where are you trying to go, and what is the business, what do you foresee the business looking like? Maybe they don't have all the answers, right? But, if you tell me, well, hey, I just hope to sell 20 houses, my goal is to sell 20 to 30 houses, a year for the next 10, 15, 20 years and have a really cool career and just, kind of be there. I'd say, okay, great. Let's set up for that. And here's what you're going to need for that. Right. So I think where you're going kind of helps to determine who needs to be on the bus with you. Right. What type of ride you're taking and all that. So the first thing is, where are you going? The second thing is, I'm allowing my finances to kind of guide me, so where is it, when you look through that financial data.
Yeah, unpack that real quick, because I think that's because some people won't be able to plan ahead, but they can see their bank account and they can understand how much money they have coming in to say, like, should I or should I not? What would be an average percentage, right, that we think about that could go towards leverage off the top of your head?
Yeah, so just in terms of like staffing.
Yeah, if I'm paying someone, if I'm closing 15 or so deals a year and I'm going to bring someone on, how much can I actually afford to pay someone, and what is that going to get me? I'd say it's probably in the $3,000 a month range, give or take, maybe.
Yeah, for someone full time. But again, if we're talking about a first time agent, right? You're probably talking maybe $400, $350 to leverage
for transaction
coordination.
Sure. Yep.
350 to 450, right in that ballpark range is what you're going to get. And you'll get someone who will handle, a ton of the details, which is hours back in your life to be
exactly.
able to
guys that are listening to this is exactly what you need to remember. If I give $400 away per transaction to not have to deal with the paperwork, how much time does it actually give you back? I can tell you right now, if you're closing, 25 deals a year, if you're closing 15 deals,
well, just think about the one deal. How much time are you getting? How much time are you getting back just on a one deal, right?
3-4 hours minimum.
At least that's what I was. I was thinking 4 to 6 hours, right? At least per client. If
not
they're
to mention the interruptions that come along with it.
Well, and that's the task switch, right? So we came from, so our old brokerage taught a lot about the one thing, right? And you have to focus in on the one thing, right? And time block, right? Well, the problem with that is that, if you get interrupted, there's a stop, then a start, then a stop, then a start. Versus here, it's like, man, you're not going to be interrupted with any of that because your transaction coordinator is handling all the HOA questions, right? They're handling setting up the inspections, and you're free then to continue to A, service the client at a high level, or B, go get more clients, right? And that's the whole point of all this there. So,
how many times have you had to chase on a lender, another agent, the title company, the home inspector? The list goes
for
on
minor
and on
things too, right? Things that go along with the transaction, but like minor things, it's just like, oh, we need a picture of the EMD check, like, and your next thing you spent 30, 45 minutes trying to track this thing down, and you're just like, man, I could have paid someone $400 to handle all that stuff, and now all of a sudden I've got free time back. And it doesn't, here's the thing, even if you weren't doing that, and even if you didn't leverage it to go get more business, what if you just leverage it to go hang out with your kids? What if you
Right.
just leverage it
That's
for
exactly
peace of
right.
mind?
The impact on your personal life as well. That's what I said in the beginning. We're not talking about just business. We're talking about your personal life. What does it give back?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
so
amazing.
yeah, so what's your 3 to 5 year plan? Financial models is what I'm looking for or looking through. And then I mean, obviously an interview process, right? I mean, you have to have some type of process down to be able to filter and have a litmus test for candidates, right? It's like, great, we've gotten away, with some of that. You hire someone, because they're good, but are they really the best fit for that, in terms of larger scale, right? And so you have to have an interview process because you're trying to match a number of things. You're trying to match job fit, right? Are they fit for the job? But are they a cultural fit for you, right? We found like that to be, the big one, right? I mean, we're looking for people who are cultural fits, right? People who are givers, people who are take action, type people who are collaborators and willing to share, people who are open to growing and learning, have a growth mindset. Those are the type of people that we attract, right? And then from there, it's just we lay out, here's what the process looks like, and here are leverage points for you, and here's also how you're a leverage point for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you find that symbiotic relationship there, and it's a win, right? And we've done, I think, a pretty good job of trying to find people who are cultural fits, and then on more of a micro level, find them into the right job fit, right? Whether it be for energy or skill set, right, or passion, right? And we're lining those things up there. But if you're a first time hire, right, I'd be thinking through who is going to be able to leverage the most amount of time and provide a really high quality service. I'm also looking for reviews, recommendations. Hey, give me a couple of people that have used your services. And that's how I'm maybe filtering to find that leverage point there initially for a new agent. But that's the first thing I'm getting off my plate is contract to close.
Yeah, and also be willing to be hand in hand with that person as they're getting into it and know that they don't know everything and that they're looking for you to lead them. I think a lot of people will bring someone on and they just don't want to lead. And that's a problem because you can't expect someone that is working for you to automatically step in and be a leader unless they really have that driver mentality to tell you to get the hell out of the way and that they'll take care of it. And those are few.
Are you going to get that for $400?
It depends on who you run into and where they want to go.
I think it'd be a rare find to find someone who's going to come in.
They're not drivers anyway. Most of the time, that's not what they're looking for. And that's
Exactly.
not what, it's great if you find that person. We've heard stories of that. This happens. You hear, you go on YouTube and you look up and you're like, I found so-and-so and they worked with me now for 15 years and they are my right-hand man. And it's like, you needle in a haystack,
Yeah. Well, I think that probably comes though, like it's just like what they say, you're an overnight success, right? Well, yeah, I mean, like Nomus Group, we're an overnight success, like 6, 7, 8 years in the making, right? We were individual agents, but been doing Nomus now for the last 3.5 years. But people say, oh, you guys made it overnight, but it's like, man, this has been 10 years that we've been agents and trying to figure this whole thing out, right? It's been 3.5 years figuring out Nomus Group, and it's the same thing here. Like, I don't think you find those people just like needle in a haystack. I think you probably have went through a lot of pain and suffering, right? You went through a lot of relationships there that maybe are still left good, but just it wasn't the right fit for the company then, or it was a right fit then, but as the company grew, it no longer is a right fit, and that's okay. I think the best thing though to do is continue to make sure that you leave those relationships really good, but understand leverage is there and find someone who's better, right? If you find someone who's detail oriented, let them run with it. Great, go.
And part of what we're doing with this is giving the people that are listening when this goes out to the masses is, you don't need to do what we did, right? I mean, we definitely did it our way in a lot of ways with coaching and things like that as well. But we definitely made hires without doing our due diligence in full and have learned some really valuable lessons, And now we know that what we're saying is very true. And that is take your time before you hire. That is really dig deep on who they are as a person and where they want to go. That is analyzing your financials to make sure that you're comfortable hiring someone and that you can support them for more than a year. Because the last thing you want to do is bring someone on and let them go after 2 months because you now gave them part of your business, but you didn't go out and get any more. I mean, there are so many pieces to this puzzle that we have learned that we can tell other people how to do so they can hit the ground running and not have to stumble in some of the ways that we did. I think it has led to us being really successful, but I could have used that help back in the day.
Of course, right? So here you brought up a good point there, right? Talking about these salaries or even, I mean, what they're taking on as a new agent or even someone who's like, all right, I'm closing 25, 30 deals. I think I want to bring on a full-time assistant. One thing that I wrote down, is that you also understand if you're hiring someone for $45,000, a year to bring on to do some of that, you're not taking $45,000 out of your bank account. Right. To me, you're committing to at least a 90-day program initially. Right. And you're saying, all right, great. It looks like there's alignment here. Right. And know that you have at least those 3 to 6 months, ready to be paid for there, that you can handle that. But understand, you're not taking on a $45,000, lump sum. It's broken down into your monthly payments there. And having that, then you realize, okay, now I'm set up. This is what it's going to do. Here are the expectations. Then if I'm going to pay this every month, this is what I want in return. And so I think the biggest thing, I think a lot of mistakes people make is exactly what you mentioned a few minutes ago, which is I'm going to bring this person on and they're going to magically make my world better. Well, it's not going to magically happen unless you magically laid out, the proper expectations and you had a training program and you had a job description, right? And you had, resources for them and you had a training program. And those things, this has taken us 3.5 years to 4 years to put this stuff into place. And even now we're like, okay, it's good, but how do we make it better and more efficient and smoother so that we can do it with more people faster to get them better results?
And what's the key to still make those relationships work even though you don't have those things in place? Because this is what we've done a lot of the times where we've continued to grow is we don't always have that in place. So what have we replaced that with that still keeps it moving forward?
Paying them a lot of money.
Communication. Expectations, really talking on a regular basis about what we're doing, why we're doing it, where it's going to be. Because I think that there are people that have administrative brains that if they don't have that clarity, it freaks them out. And for you and I, like, what do you mean? Like, this is fine. We're running 100 miles an hour. But for them, giving them that comfort and making sure that they understand, yes, this may not be as clear as you want it to be at the moment, but here's where we're going and here's how we're going to continue to build it, has really led to the loyalty from our people as well. Understanding what we're doing and why we're doing it and who we are, and that we, always have their best interest at heart. So,
yeah. We always say relationships fail for one of two reasons, whether it's personal, professional,
so simple.
Your kids, your dog, right? The coworker, right? Your plumber. Only one of two reasons.
Relationship fail with my dog, man.
Yes. You can always trace it back to one of two things: mismanaged expectation or a lack of communication. One or the other, and that's where the breakdown happens, right? Because if you say, here's the expectation, you're constantly communicating that, we have so few friction, right? So little friction on our team because expectations are here. Communication oftentimes is here, right? We're trying to over communicate, right? And you end up with as few problems as possible and as few friction points there. And that's what you want, both with your new hire and obviously with your clients. But for that new hire, the other thing I also would say is make sure you have a reserve account set up, right? Again, this is all guided by financials, right? But, you're going to want to have 4 to 6 months kind of set aside, right? Or if you're thinking of from a transaction standpoint, you're hiring someone there, what if you closed, 15 deals in the year or 20 deals, right? I'd have that money set aside to pay for that, and just be ready, right? Be financially responsible and kind of have a model to follow. And then as far as like the hire and that leverage, just have some type of plan. Nobody's asking for perfection, but you have to have a plan to get started, right? And have some idea of what you want them to do. And on our team, we always say plan, do, check, adjust, right? So start with something, set some expectations, communicate with it. Even if you're communicating, hey, you're my first hire and we're going to work through this thing together. It's going to be a little bit bumpy. We're going to grow, but man, I'm committed to you and you're committed to me and we're going to go here. I think as long as you do those things, things are going to turn out, in a positive, situation, at least put you a lot further ahead than where you would be if you didn't take action and you didn't have a little bit of planning behind it.
I tell you what, we have slammed through some info in like 30 minutes, which felt like about 9 minutes, to be honest. Didn't really seem that quick at all. The one thing that we didn't even mention to this point that is really critical in the leverage piece too is it's not just people, it's systems and tools. And that's what Shelby mentioned there as well, is that, as an independent person, there are so many things that you can leverage from just a tool perspective that you can forecast that isn't a person. You don't have to deal with their personalities, et cetera. You can just use tools like a CRM. Brivity has been a game changer for us in so many ways as far as what we use. HomeBot is another. The list goes on and on and on as far as leverage tools that we're using,
Yep. So let's do this since we're kind of at the end time here. I am curious. Let's leave them with maybe one tool that you would leverage, right? What's a tech tool or some type of tool that you would leverage?
Yeah, the biggest tool that you need to go leverage is a CRM, client relations manager. That is the top thing that you absolutely have to have, because as soon as you start to grow a business, whether it's 10 people or 1,000 people, you need to have that in a place where you can go in and call, text, email, leave notes, set reminders, all of those things to manage a person's follow-up so you can keep in touch with them on a regular basis. Number one thing, absolutely. Before anything else, get a CRM and commit to using it. And the other thing, actually, let me say this real quick too, a Google Calendar.
Your calendar, leverage a calendar. Yeah, that's a good one too. I think they go hand in hand. My one leverage tool or recommendation is video, right? Leverage video wherever you can, however you can, whether it's for training, whether it's for marketing, right? Use video, use video. If you were going to say something more than once, use video and have it recorded. And that'd be my tool tech tip, I guess.
Tool tech
how to leverage.
Tip. The 3 T's.
It's a new series we're gonna start.
The 3 T's.
Yeah, right.
Tool
Those are things.
Tips.
Tools.
With Tim, the Toolman Taylor.
People may call us tools, right? You know, tech, that is something we are not good with. That we are not going to do a tech show.
No, we will not. But that's why we have people on our team that can do it very well in our place. So
yes,
yeah.
Perfect.
Good call.
Hey, good stuff today, Ryan.
Appreciate
Shelby,
it.
always great. Thanks for putting these together and recording. And Matt, thanks for joining in with us.